Hello and welcome back to Bookish Theories! In today's video, we'd like to talk about Tomorrow by Together's concept photos for the Chaos Chapter Freeze, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the world version of the album to see what it can tell us about the upcoming comeback. Now, as it always happens with Tomorrow by Together, even the photos have a lot of clues to keep in mind, so before I get defeated by all three versions, let's start with the first one because we have quite a lot to unpack. We have Kim Bong-gyu coming in strong, Hyunin Kai rocking an eye patch, and an empty heart that reveals the entire concept in and of itself, so without wasting any time, let's jump right in and see what's going on. Now, as it was expected by an album called Freeze, the world version shows us a frozen landscape stuck in winter after the boys lost the summer of their life. As it turns out, however, the landscape itself already gives us a few hints about what is actually going on, because as we see the boys dressed like royalty, we also see them being surrounded by arrows that imply that they survived a deadly attack. Right off the bat, this is very telling, because these visuals bring us right back to Puma, where Bong-gyu was shot by arrows as well. Back then, the concept of the video was about the boys choosing the devil's side and the Puma coming to the surface as a result of this choice, so knowing this, we can say that the Chaos Chapter is set in the winter because they allowed the darkness to overpower them, thus leading to their heart getting frozen by the cold. Now, as I mentioned in my latest videos, my theory is that them choosing the devil's side is directly connected to the pact that they made with the cat, which is something that made them powerful but also cursed them to become monsters because of that. Since their power comes with a price, their choice to make the pact to protect each other might have backfired, and now the price that they have to pay is to be taken over by the winter, and the reference to Puma might reinforce this idea as well. You see, even if Yeonjun said that the Puma represents the devil's side, in the song the Puma itself is actually represented both as a predator and as a victim. When it's free, the Puma is obviously a danger, but in the video we also see that it's in captivity, so if we apply this contrast to the storyline, this might imply that even if they chose the devil's side, this choice also made them prisoners of an entity that is affecting them both physically and mentally. Now, if this is the case, this would also explain why in Can't You See Me the boys actually fight with one another. If the Puma came to the surface as a result of the pact, the darkness is literally blinding their judgment. They only see the devil's side, and this devil's side affects their behavior by making them turn on one another. Bear in mind, back in Blue Hour, the boys wanted to be trapped in magic at the hour between the dog and the wolf, so even if they started off as each other's dogs, meaning that they started off as each other's loyal friend, when they get trapped in magic, the devil's side makes them become each other's wolves. Now, as I mentioned in my past videos, the winter concept of Freeze seems to have been inspired by the Snow Queen, which is a fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen that is very relevant to the plot. Since I already explained it in detail in this video right here, however, today I'm only focusing on the clues relevant to the photos, so in case you want to know more, please check that video out once you're done with this one. Now, in the story, the devil creates a mirror that is able to show the ugliest side of the world, but when he tries to bring it to heaven, the glass breaks and its fragment hit people, affecting their perception of the world. A boy called Kai is hit in both the eye and the heart, and if the fragment in the eye blinds him to the beauty of the world, the fragment in his heart freezes it by making him very violent and aggressive. When the boy is taken away by the Snow Queen, the woman tells him that the only way to free himself is to spell the word eternity with the eyes of her castle, but Kai's friend Gerda eventually saves him by melting his heart with her love. Now, if we compare the story to Tomorrow by Together, we can say that the pact with the Odette cat might have had the very same effect of the mirror in the story. Just like the boy can only see the monstrous side of the world and becomes mean and violent, both the Doom's Night and Can't You See Me showed us the same thing happening to the boys as well, and in the concept photos this idea comes in full effect, because we not only see Kai wearing an eye patch, but we also see Bong-gyu posing next to an empty heart. Now, if we take a look at the two of them in Can't You See Me, this turn of events actually makes a lot of sense, because if Bong-gyu attacks Taeyeon when he is overpowered by the devil's side, Hyunin Kai scratches the very same eye that is hidden in the photos. If in the Doom's Night we saw the pact being made, Can't You See Me might have shown us the beginning of the transformation that will eventually be portrayed in Freeze, but even if the hints mainly focus on Bong-gyu and Kai, it's also important to understand that all of them are affected in the very same way. Since all of them made the pact with the cat, all of them have to pay the price. All of them turn into monsters, and as we see in the trailer, all of them end up freezing over because of that. If Yuninkai has an eye patch and Beomgyu is associated to the heart, Beomgyu, Soobin, Yeonjun and Taeyeon also have scratches on their faces, meaning that whatever happened to them is something that happened to them as a group. All of them are the victims, and by default all of them are the predators, and this idea has been foreshadowed in Puma as well. If in the video we saw Yuninkai being associated to broken glass, fragments of glass in Yeonjun's eye, and Soobin having the eyes of the dragon, in the live we not only saw Beomgyu and Yeonjun having odd eyes, but we also saw Taeyeon having red eyes on multiple occasions. Now the fact that out of all of them, Soobin and Taeyeon are the only ones affected in both of their eyes is actually very suspicious, because back in Can't You See Me, the two of them were the liars. To this day, we still don't know what they're lying about, but if we keep in mind the Snow Queen, this might imply that the influence of the devil's side is more powerful on them than it is on the others. Bear in mind, back in Can't You See Me, the conflict begins with them. Taeyeon is already mad from the beginning, Soobin is the second, and Beomgyu is the third to be hit by a wave of red light, and sure enough, the three of them are paired up in the photos as well. In this picture, for instance, the three of them are referencing the phrase "hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil," and while the original meaning of this sentence is a positive one, I think that in this context the more fitting meaning is to turn a blind eye on something wrong. If you look closely, however, we not only see that Soobin and Taeyeon's respective actions are linked to their monster side, but also that Soobin is the first one that starts this connection, and this is very suspicious because Soobin here has been acting up for quite a while now. Back in Eternally, for instance, Soobin was the one to bring the dice back to reality, which is something that he seemed to hide from the others and that possibly caused the game that they were playing as children to turn real. If this wasn't enough, moreover, both Puma and Freeze show us the boys being hit by arrows, and in the game Soobin actually plays as an archer, which is something that was foreshadowed all the way back in Crown, and that was also hinted at in Puma, where Beomgyu is hit by arrows right after the camera zooms in on Soobin. In Can't You See Me, on the other hand, we also see him willingly dropping the glass from the table, and this metaphorical action leads us to the scene of Yuninkai being sad while Beomgyu and Yeonjun fight in the background. Now in this context, the two of them are obviously playing, but if this video is showing us the devil's side creeping in, then these visuals might actually imply that Beomgyu and Yeonjun will end up fighting for real and that Soobin is somehow the one who caused this event to take place. This finally brings us to King Beomgyu, which is a surprise that might actually make a lot of sense. You see, if you watch my videos in the past, then you know that my initial idea is that Yeonjun was always associated to King Imagery and that Beomgyu aspired to be like him but couldn't because he was an extra in his own life. This is something that I explained more in detail back in my video about drama, but another theory that I had is also linked to the Battle of Kings, which is a mythological conflict that is actually connected to the cycle of the seasons. You see, in many traditions, summer and winter are ruled by two kings who fight with each other at every solstice. The Oak King rules over summer, while the Holy King rules over winter, and at the time I actually associated Yeonjun to the King of Summer, while Beomgyu to the King of Winter, and as it turns out, I might have actually been right about that. You see, back in Eternally, we saw that when Yeonjun died, flowers died with him, and in Film Blue Hour we saw Beomgyu being left alone in autumn. At the Melon Music Awards, we saw him taking out the White King during a game of chess. This might imply that Beomgyu becoming king is not only associated to the world freezing over, but also to something bad happening to Yeonjun, and this idea is also reinforced by the photos, where we see that Yeonjun is the only member lying down. Now, Yeonjun's death has been foreshadowed time and time again, but even if we don't know if it's a physical death or a metaphorical one thing that we know for sure is that by the end, Yeonjun is eventually saved by Yuninkai, which might actually be the key to solve all of this mess. You see, if we follow the story of the Snow Queen, love is the only thing that can melt a frozen heart, and in the trailer we saw that the love that the boys need is none other than the love of Moa, which is the star of the story. In Up of a Star, however, we also saw that Moa actually shines on Yuninkai and that he is the one that brings her light to Yeonjun, so even if it's fair to say that Kai is affected by the devil's side, the chances are that he might be the one to break the curse. You see, even if the eye patch can imply that it's been hurt by evil, the eye patch itself is also something that protects the eye from further exposure. So if we keep in mind that this patch has the shape of a heart, this could mean that Hunin Kai is actually protected by love. Even if in Puma it was associated to broken glass, Kai himself was in a glass case. He was protected by it, and he's the only one who never actually changed eye color, so just like it was foreshadowed back in the Doom's Night, this could mean that Kai is too good to undergo a proper transformation, and he's able to connect with the star because of that. To know if I'm right or wrong, however, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!